HOD, the House of Favor.
Let us pray. Father, Lord, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart, O Lord, be acceptable in thy sight, my Lord and my Redeemer. For I pray with thanksgiving in Jesus' mighty name. I welcome all of you in the name of our Lord and precious Savior Jesus Christ. And I pray that the good Lord who has brought all of you here and all those who are listening to us over the internet, He will let you receive the rhema that pertains to you, to profit you, and be a blessing to you in the mighty name of Jesus. This morning I'll be speaking on a sermon I have titled Mr. Joshua. Mr. Joshua. 2 Samuel chapter 9, from verse 1 to verse 13. 2 Samuel chapter 9. And David said, "Is there yet any that is left of the house of Saul, that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake?" And there was of the house of Saul a servant whose name was Ziba. And when they had called him unto David, the king said unto him, "Art thou Ziba?" And he said, "Thy servant is he." And the king said, "Is there not yet any of the house of Saul, that I may show the kindness of God unto him?" And Ziba said unto the king, "Jonathan hath yet a son, which is lame on his feet." And the king said unto him, "Where is he?" And Ziba said unto the king, "Behold, he is in the house of Micaiah, the son of Amiel, in Lo-debar." Then King David sent and fetched him out of the house of Micaiah, the son of Amiel, from Lo-debar. Now when Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, was come unto David, he fell on his face and did reverence. And David said, "Mephibosheth." And he answered, "Behold thy servant." And David said unto him, "Fear not, for I will surely show thee kindness for Jonathan thy father's sake, and will restore thee all the land of Saul thy father, and thou shalt eat bread at my table continually." And he bowed himself and said, "What is thy servant, that thou shouldest look upon such a dead dog as I am?" Then the king called to Ziba, Saul's servant, and said unto him, "I have given unto thy master's son all that pertained to Saul and to all his house. Thou therefore and thy sons and thy servants shalt till the land for him, and thou shalt bring in the fruits, that the master's son may have food to eat. But Mephibosheth, thy master's son, shall eat bread always at my table." Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Then said Ziba unto the king, "According to all that my lord the king had commanded his servant, so shall thy servant do. As for Mephibosheth," said the king, "he shall eat at my table as one of the king's sons." And Mephibosheth had a young son whose name was Micah, and all that dwelt in the house of Ziba were servants unto Mephibosheth. So Mephibosheth dwelt in Jerusalem, for he did eat continually at the king's table, and was lame on both his feet. May Lord bless the reading of his words. For those that were here on Friday, this was the same text I used to speak during the communion. And then I remember that I had, preached a sermon on the same text that will be relevant to us this morning, titled Mr. Joshua, about 15 years ago. Now, the story goes like this. About 15 or 16 years ago, my brother-in-law, who is based in the UK, is still there, came to visit. And we were living at Victoria Island at that time, myself and my wife. So we took him out for dinner in one of the restaurants in Victoria Island that I used to go to fairly frequently. and we're having a good time. And when I asked for the bill for the meal, one of the young sales guys came and told me, he said, this bill, Mr. Joshua is taking care of 50% of the bill. Mr. Joshua. So I was joking that somebody is going to, whether he's chasing my wife or doing anything like that, he will pay for everything. So I thanked them, paid 50%, and then on our way out, at the door of the restaurant, there was a gentleman in suit, well-dressed. So the man looked at my wife. He said, "You are Funke. You Funke?" My wife said, "No." Then that must be Femi. He said, "Yes." Then he looked at the brother. He said, "This must be Bukun." He said, "Yes." Then he asked about the other brother, asked about the parents, and they were puzzled. Then he asked them, "Do you remember Mr. Joshua?" They looked at him. They couldn't remember Mr. Joshua. Then he said, "I was the Joshua that used to work with your father about 20 years ago." Then it clicked. That's Joshua. It was Mr. Joshua. Now he said, the Joshua that worked with your father. They remembered him, greeted him, and so we left. Then before we left, the man said, "I understand," because then he knew I was the husband of the Femi, that your husband frequents here, and that he has a favorite dish, grilled salmon plus chips, and I looked at him, smiled, and then we left. Then in the car, the conversation started. You mean that was Joshua? Yes, the Mr. Joshua. Apparently, the Joshua was their house help over 20 years ago. But unknown to them, like he told us, the father was paying his school fees to go to school in the evenings. So he was working with them during the day and going to school in the evenings. Over the years, Mr. Joshua had become the manager of a top-notch restaurant in VI. Dressed in suit, you can see he was in charge. They would never imagine that the Joshua of 20 years ago had become the person that they met. He remembered all their names, remembered the parents, and now he has found out the husband comes there and eats there frequently. So I was telling them, this man could have killed all of us. If he wanted to, he could poison us. If the father was wicked to the children over the years, we were in his hands, we did not even know. And I said to my wife, what if I had been frequently here with my girlfriend? This is how also Mr. Joshua is going to know that I've been going there with my girlfriend. Many of us, we go through life. There are many things that are unknown to us that we think we know. And it tells me that it doesn't matter what state you are in as at this present moment. It does not say where you're going to be in future. Because the house help of today might become the managing director of tomorrow. And the one that you thought had today might be in penury tomorrow. So as parents, what kind of legacy are we leaving behind for our children? So there are many things that we can pick from this story, which I want us to look at. Number one, your parents can affect your future positively or negatively. David was looking for somebody to bless in the house of Saul. Not because of Saul, but because of his friend Jonathan. He remembered how Jonathan had been nice to him. Jonathan was the heir apparent to the throne, the son of Saul. But this guy loved David. His father was trying to kill David. He was the one that prevented his father from killing David. And after David had become king, he said, is there not somebody that is left in the house of Saul that I could bless? I told them the story at the vigil of what happened to me many years ago. There are some people in my life I cannot forget. I remembered when I finished my first degree, and I was trusting God for scholarship to go overseas for my master's program. Applying for scholarships. And I saw an advert at Ibadan where I did my NYSC. From Rotary International, Rotary Club of Oluyole, people should apply for scholarship for master's program. I was very happy. I applied for it. Even courtesy of response, I didn't get. And then, about a week or two later, I came to Lagos, saw another advert. Rotary Club of Victoria Island. The same advert. So I applied for that one also. And about a week later, I got a letter that was placed on the door because we didn't have a place to put letter. A letter, stuck on the door of where I was staying in Surulere. Dear Mr. Quiton, I saw that you applied for this scholarship, but the closing time is just a few days away. If I were to send this form to you by mail, definitely by the time you return the form, you will have missed the deadline for submission. But I noticed that you stay in Surulere. And since I stay in Surulere also, I have sent my son to your house to deliver the form. Kindly fill this form, and then please return the form to my house. I said, they do this kind of things in Nigeria. So I took the form, filled the form, went to the man's house in Surulere, returned the form. I saw the man, he didn't say anything. Good evening, sir. Took the form, and I went away. 6 months later, I got a letter from the U.S., from Rotary International, Evanston, Illinois. Dear Mr. Quiton, you have been recommended for a scholarship by Rotary Nigeria. There are one or two things that we require you to do that is not part of your form. Please fill this and send to us. By the time I got the letter, the time that the board of Rotary will meet was very close. But I still went to Ibadan, to my former university, filled the form and sent it. 1 month later, another letter from US. Dear Mr. Quiton, congratulations, you have a scholarship from Rotary International. Pick any university you want to go to, and we're going to pay. That was thousands of dollars in scholarship. So I said, I don't understand this. You have a scholarship worth thousands of dollars, and I have not had one single interview. Nobody has called me. All I did was to fill the form. So I went to the man's house to go and thank him in Surulere. I didn't know he was a very big man. So he kept me waiting. He saw different people, and then I was the last person. So I entered this house. He said, young man, did you see some young children around? I said, yes, sir. Said, those are my children. In the sitting room, photograph. One of his daughters graduating. The common photograph we have in families. You be shaking your daughter. Say, this one too is my daughter. Said, do you know that I could have used my influence to give this scholarship that you have just been awarded to somebody in my family? I said, yes, sir. Said, but that is not how God has made life. He said, when I saw your form and you filled it, you were brilliant in school. And I checked your father. Your father was dead. Your mother was dead. So I said to myself, this young boy must be helped. Unknown to me, he was the chairman at that time, the president of Rotary Nigeria. So unknown to me, I became the candidate of the president. That was why I was not called for any interview. The man has used his influence to ensure this one, if you are going to take anybody at all, this one must go along with them. I found out later that the scholarship was difficult to get. Apparently what happens is that all the Rotary clubs, we advertise. That was why I saw one in Ibadan, Oluyole, then Victoria Island. After you've all advertised and people had applied for that scholarship, each of those little clubs, we interview them. They will now send it to national office, who will now interview them. After they have finished, they will now decide if Nigeria had 10 scholarships, they will send 20 to US. It is in the US they will determine the 10 that will get it out of the 20. Those processes, I didn't do any of them. So the man said to me, as we are going to America now, let me tell you my story. He was a Muslim. He said I was a poor Asaruddin school teacher before God began to bless me. He said, young man, as you are going, everything God gives you, 10% does not belong to you. He taught me about tithing. He didn't tell me to take the money to church. He said 10% of whatever God gives you, use it to help the poor. And you will see how God will bless you some more. Say, young man, go in peace. That was my experience with this man. He's dead now. Alhaji Balogun. So I said to them at the vigil, I said, imagine that I was on a panel, an interview panel, and some people came for different things, either for job or for scholarship or interview. And I see a name, something called Balogun. The first thing I'm going to do is to ask you, which Balogun is your own? It doesn't matter whether I'm bishop or archbishop. There's one Balogun who has blessed me. And anywhere I am, if I come across any of his children or grandchildren, I must bless them. Because the Father has sown a seed in my life. And the same thing could be applicable. There are some people, you just ask them, what is your name? Once they have heard your name, you have failed. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how brilliant you are. Because your father has sown so much evil. In fact, if you are lucky to leave the place, if they can even harm you, they will harm you. So the question is, what kind of legacy are you leaving behind for your children? I used to think that Jonathan was a coward. That was why I wanted David to become king. Until you go and read 1 Samuel chapter 14. And you will see how Jonathan took on the Philistines. You will know that this guy was not a coward. In fact, when he died, David sang a dirge. 2 Samuel chapter 1, verse 25, verse 26. When Jonathan was slain in battle, David said, how the mighty have fallen in the midst of the battle. Jonathan was slain in your high places. I am distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. You have been pleasant to me. Your love to me was wonderful, surpassing the love of women. You know, we talk about prospering in adversity. In the book of Genesis chapter 26, Isaac prospered at a time there was a famine in the land. Why? God helped Isaac. Why? Because God was repaying what Abraham had done. Isaac was living on the credit of his father Abraham. If you look at Genesis 26, verse 3 to verse 5. In verse 5, God said to Isaac, because that Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. Your blessings are due to what your father had done. May our fathers be a blessing to us in the mighty name of Jesus. In the book of Numbers chapter 16, Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, and 250 princes plotted against Moses. When they were going to receive the punishment of their plot, Numbers 16, 32 to 33, they did not die alone. Their children and families went with them. That is why you wives, you must please pray for your husbands. In their place of work, that is not create problem for the family. Some husbands, usually it is husbands that create the problems, not the wives. Many of them create problems where they work, in their business interactions, and what they do. Pray for your husband. In Daniel chapter 6, when they also plotted against Daniel, and the punishment came, the punishment affected the wives and the children of the coup plotters. Daniel chapter 6, verse 24. Daniel 6:24. Bible said, and the king commanded, and they brought those men which had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions. Them, their children, and their wives, and the lions had the mastery of them, and break all their bones in pieces, or ever they came at the bottom of the den. Be careful what you do. When Haman was going after Mordecai with a passion, he wanted to have him destroyed. When the tables were turned, in Esther chapter 9 verse 10, Esther 9 verse 10, he lost 10 sons in one day. 10 sons in one day because of his wickedness. I pray that none of us will leave behind liabilities for our children in the mighty name of Jesus. Number 2, don't stereotype people. Don't stereotype people. You know, Saul was a wicked king. He hated David with a passion. He was looking for him to kill him. So it's very easy to say everybody that comes from the line of Saul, they are murderers and wicked people. And that is how we tend to classify people. You are not happy with the father, the son, the wife, the children, the grandchildren, they are all the same. Just stereotype them. Oh, those people from the north, Hausas, you know, they are all uneducated. And all of them depend on government contract. All of them from the north, all of them, not one of them, not two. All of them didn't go to school. Even though the person that taught your father in school is an Hausa man with a PhD. But as far as we are concerned, all of them are what? Not educated. Igbo men, they can die for money. All the Igbo men. Not one, not two. All of them, they will die for money. Yorubas are troublemakers. Troublemakers. Those people, they are very, very sneaky people. They're not straightforward people. Those Yoruba, you don't know them. He's a Yoruba man. All the unmarried sisters in church, you know why she's not married? They are looking for rich men. That is why. Looking for rich men. Meanwhile, the people who are looking for rich men, some of them are single, they own their own houses, they own their own cars, but they are looking for rich men. Some of them can afford to marry a man and say the man should not work, and they can feed him throughout life. But as far as we are concerned, all the sisters who are not married is what? They are looking for rich men. When you do business with believers, you don't have to worry. In fact, you don't have to sign contracts. Some believers are more terrible than unbelievers. When believers come to report themselves to pastor, and each one is telling you that what he or she is saying is the truth, the pastor is confused. These are deacons. These are pastors. Who is saying the truth? The pastor does not know. So I tell people, even though your business partner is a Christian, make sure it is written in case he or she forgets. My friend is from Cross River or Ekiti. You don't know that. They write petitions. Petitions galore. They know how to write it. Ekiti people, they have gone to school too much. They can write anything. You know, I have a fiancé now. Where's your fiancé from? Edo State. Edo State. All of them do part-time in Italy. All of them do part-time in Italy. You know, we put everybody in a box. Everybody in a box. In the house of Saul, as bad as Saul was, there's a man called Jonathan. And Jonathan was the total opposite of his father. In families, people have different characters. There are daughters who are not like their parents. There are sons who are not like their fathers. The fact that I am from a particular place does not mean everybody from that place behaves the same way. Learn not to stereotype people. It will do you a lot of good. In fact, let me tell you something that I have to do it in a very nice way. All Igbo men love money. You know, one of our members here came to me in my office to give me a testimony because he didn't want to share with all of you. The guy is Yoruba. He works for an Igbo boss. So one day, that one saw him. He said, "You are a good staff. You are a good staff. You know, it's an airline." So he saw him again. He said, "Don't you want to, this thing that you are doing, don't you want to consider piloting?" The guy thought the guy was joking. So one day, he saw him again. He said, "I told you that you should be higher than what you are doing. You can be a good pilot. Have you considered applying to schools of aviation to become a pilot?" The guy knew that will cost a lot of money. So he thought the man was joking. The man saw him again. I said, "You should apply." So he applied. The man said, "How much was it?" They told him, thousands of dollars. He has paid. That guy is now in school. Some of our ministers here, I won't say more than that. That's why you are not seeing here. He couldn't even give testimony so that people will not even know that chairman has paid for it. The man paid. They are not from the same place. He just looked at me and said, look, you are a good staff. You are higher than this. Go and apply. And he applied. He thought he was joking. The man transferred the money. All the Igbo men are going to die over money. So if that is your attitude, you will not even walk where you are walking. And you will lose out. Because God can use somebody from Cross River to bless you. Somebody from Akwa Ibom, or it can even be somewhere totally unrelated to where you came from. I told you my story. When I went to school in America, that same scholarship, my school was very expensive. So I couldn't pay, the scholarship was not even enough to pay everything. So I wanted to work. And I couldn't work. With a student visa, I couldn't work. So I couldn't work outside the campus. I could only work on campus. So I took all the jobs I could do on campus. Sanitation, washing toilets, I took it. Computer training other students, I took it. I became very popular on campus. When they asked me what's my name, I say I'm Olu. They can't call Olu Kayode. It's too long. So all my student friends knew me as Olu. One day, one Nigerian came to my school. He was there many years before me, from Benin. He didn't know me from anywhere. So he said he's from Nigeria. He said, do you know Olu? I said, no, I don't know Olu. He would go somewhere, do you know Olu? I said, I don't know Olu. After some, the man said, go and look for this Olu for me. Go and call Olu for me. They went out everywhere looking for Olu. They couldn't find Olu. Olu was working. So the man left a note. Dear Olu, I am from Nigeria. I came to your school. I heard good news concerning you. If you come to Nigeria, come and see me. Signed, Prince Olu Eweka, Central Bank of Nigeria. I saw the note. I kept it. I finished my master's program. I came back to Nigeria. I got a job with Citibank. Then I remembered, I don't have certificate. I was owing the school. They kept it as security. I remembered Prince Olu Eweka, Central Bank of Nigeria. So let me go and visit him. So I went to visit him. Say, welcome, welcome. I'm very happy what we are doing there. Is there anything I can do for you? Is there any way I can help you? I said, yes, sir. I said, Buhari was in power then when I went to US, 1984. They had banned foreign studies. If you were going overseas, the maximum amount of foreign exchange you could take was $100. And my school cost thousands of dollars. I said, yes, sir, I'm owing money. He said, you are owing money in foreign exchange. He said, I'm going to help you. He said, what you are going to do now, you write a letter to Central Bank Governor. You will state your case and how much you are owing. You go back to Nigerian embassy in California. Let them stamp that letter. Come and give it to me. Leave the rest with me. I did that. There was a ban. You couldn't get money. The man told me what to do. He didn't come from Ijebu. He's a Benin man. I wrote it. The man went, I got to know, he went from table to table, making a case why they must give this boy exceptional approval to buy foreign exchange. He went all the way to the governor. So we were asking him, we know you are a Benin man. This man you are trying to help is a Yoruba boy. So we know that it is not because we are related. Until he got me approval, not only to buy foreign exchange, to even bring back my luggage. I didn't have any luggage. That was extra. What is the luggage of a student? You don't know who is going to help you. You think I will hear Olu Eweka and I won't ask which Olu Eweka is your own. Don't stereotype people. Number 3, it pays to be good and to invest in people. It pays to be good and to invest in people. Psalm 41, verse 1 and verse 2. Blessed is he that considereth the poor. The Lord will deliver him in time of trouble. The Lord will preserve him and keep him alive. And he shall be blessed upon the earth. And thou wilt not deliver him unto the will of his enemies. Blessed is he that considereth the poor. Psalm 19 verse 17. Psalm 19 verse 17. He that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto the Lord, And that which he had given will he pay him again. In Acts chapter 9, verse 36 to verse 41, was the story of the disciple called Tabitha or Dorcas. Dorcas was a good woman in church. She was a blessing to everybody, especially the widows. Then Dorcas died. Dorcas died. Widows started talking. Say, have you heard? Sister Dorcas is dead. She can't die, yo. If anybody will die in this church, not Dorcas. So widows got together. They began to pray. God, wake up Sister Dorcas. Wake up Sister Dorcas. Wake up Sister Dorcas. She didn't wake up. They refused to bury Dorcas. They went to look for Peter. Peter, sir, please come. There's a woman who cannot die. Prayer brought Dorcas back to life. Because of what he had done, the people who didn't have money but they had prayer. There are people who don't have money but have prayer. How many of them do you have in your life? Life does not consist of money alone. Nobody has it all. When I'm leaving my house in the morning, my security will tell me as I'm driving out, say, go come. One day I thought of it. Say it was a prayer. They are praying that your guy who is going out should come back. There's some of you, as you are going out, they are praying you will not come back. It's not a joking matter. There are some bosses in offices. People are praying for you not to return. When you are sick, they are praying, let it be a sickness unto death. That not be your story in Jesus' name. In Luke chapter 7, from verse 1 to verse 10, was the story of the centurion whose servant was sick. And he wanted intervention for his servant. If you look at verse 4 and verse 5, the elders, the Jews, went to Jesus and said to him, and when they came to Jesus, they besought him instantly, saying that he was worthy for whom he should do this, for he loved our nation and he had built us a synagogue. This guy was just an enabler. Not a Jew, but he gave. When they were building the sanctuary, he helped them. And then one day he had a need. The need was not money. It was health. It was healing. Not for even for him, for his servant. So he sent for the elders. He has sold in that church. Said, please, I understand there is a man called Jesus. He can help us. Can you please tell him that my servant is ill? It was the elders of the church who went to Jesus. They said, oh God, this man who is making the demand must be helped. He has sown. He's not a Jewish man. He has blessed us. And the Bible said Jesus Christ went with them. And the man got healing. He sold money and got healing. There are things money cannot buy. But I'm praying for you that the things require, the things money can buy and the things money cannot buy, may God grant them all to you in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. There was this story of Rockefeller. Many of us now, when we hear Rockefeller, it's one Rockefeller foundation or the other. But what was the history behind these foundations? The original Rockefeller who made money, I think it was Standard Oil. It made $1 billion when money was money. He made good money. He was about 54 years old. And then he had a strange illness or disease. Doctor said to him, put your house in order. You will not make 55. You will die. You know, when doctors overseas, they will tell you, somebody has cancer, they say, look, you have 1 week to live, 2 weeks to live. They said to him, you cannot make the next 1 year. On a sick bed, you know, I think he sent money for one worthy cause or the other. When he got the response, how they were thanking him, how they were happy. The man said, that little money that we gave, since I'm going to die, before I die, let me have the satisfaction of giving away most of this money. So they began to set up foundations. He began to put money into different causes to help different people all over the world. The man that the doctor said would die before 55, when he died, he was 98 years old. Before the man died, he has given away $750 million when dollars was dollars. Because the people that got the money, of course, somebody had a problem somewhere, money now came. Person is praying, God, the person that did this for us, bless that person. He had money, he didn't have prayer. People that had prayer prayed for him, and the gospel was fulfilled. So let us learn to be good to people. Invest in people. 1 Samuel 22, verse 1 and verse 2 was the story of David, who was on the run. And in verse 2, while he was there in Cave Adullam, Bible said, and everyone that was in distress, and everyone that was in debt, and everyone that was discontented, got themselves unto him, and he became a captain over them, and there were with him about 400 men. Imagine it. This guy was in trouble. He was running away from Saul. Then look at the people that came to meet him in the cave. Many of us will ask, what value do you have? You are owing, so they are looking for you. You are discontented. You are people who are frustrated. You have come to add to my trouble. I don't need this one. Go away. 400, not one, not two, 400 of them. And joined him. He became the chief area boy over there. What did he do? He saw them as people that needed help. Even though he himself needed help. He began to pour his own life into them. These people that were, in debt, in trouble, at the end of the day, Bible calls them the mighty men of David. He trained them. He gave them confidence to live. Some of these men were the ones that helped David later on, because you all know the story that David killed Goliath. Did you understand that after he killed Goliath, there were other giants? And another giant rose up that fought against David, about to kill David. One of these men was the one that delivered David from the hand of that giant. And they said to David, Oga, you have tried. We will not watch the light of Israel go out. You will not go to battle anymore. You have trained us. We are your men. They retired him from the army. Why? He has poured his life onto them. When you are helping people, you don't know, that sometimes you are helping yourself. I have been favored in my life. I have been favored. I use scholarships virtually through. I went to Federal Government College, Lagos, for my advanced levels. I don't know, for one reason, decided to award scholarship. They gave me scholarship. So my A levels was scholarship. My university at UI was scholarship. My master's was scholarship. When I was in part 1 in economics department of UI, UAC came. They said we're going to give just one scholarship to one student. So all of you in part 1, you can apply for that scholarship. So we all applied for that scholarship. And then I didn't hear anything again until one lady in my department said to me, that interview, they said that the two of us were the best, myself and herself. And that the committee had recommended to UAC that because these were two good candidates, they should give 2 people that year and not one person. So she said to me, UAC said, we will get back to you. That was the last I heard of it. I didn't hear anything again. Until one day I went to lectures and came back. In my hostel, in front of my door, another letter. Dear Mr. Kpeton, we gave you scholarship over 3 months ago. We have not heard from you. Even if you want to reject our scholarship, at least you will get back to us. But I have a feeling that something is not right. So, if you are interested in this scholarship, please go to our office in Ibadan, BIM. It's one of the divisions of UAC. And go and fill the form, and go and do your medical test, and then come and see me in Lagos. Sign Mrs. Ovia from the Human Resources Department. I said, this is very interesting. That was the first day I knew I had a scholarship. So I quickly went to BIM. I filled all the forms, did everything. I came to Lagos to see her from Ibadan. The woman said, at the interview, I looked at you. You did very well. And I said to myself, this young boy is brilliant in school, but no father, no mother. I must help this boy. So she said when she didn't hear from UAC, and she didn't hear from my department, she knew something was wrong. So she went outside the channels, got my address and my hostel address, and wrote to me personally in school. She said to me, going forward, leave your university alone. Come and see me in Lagos. Every semester that your check is due, I will give to you personally. And by the way, going forward, every vacation that you have, we will give you a job in UAC until you graduate. So how can I forget a woman like that? So one day, I was preaching like this. They invited me to come and preach. So I went to preach Chapel of the Healing Cross in Idi Araba. I didn't know. I was just talking about life, about people. So I gave this example out. And then after the service, I was in the pastor's room. I said, Pastor, one couple would like to see you. I didn't know that was the church the woman was attending. She was in church that morning with the husband, a professor. So she came to see me. She had not seen me for many years. I had now gone to US. I had come back and everything. She brought the husband, a prof of medicine. He said he wanted to come and say hello to me. He said, I knew you were going to do well. I just brought my husband so we can greet you, to meet up. I was very happy to see her. And that was the end of that discussion. A few months later, I got a letter from her, a small note. Sent me a note, and a young boy who had just finished a bachelor's degree in engineering from University of Lagos, chemical engineering. Said, Dear Mr. Quiton, I'm sending this guy to you. Please see what you can do to assist. I was already out of the bank. I was running my own business, property business. This is an engineer in chemical engineering. But I knew, as the guy sat in front of me, that he would not leave my office without a job. I knew. So I said to him, we don't have the job in your area, but if you can manage this until something comes up, will you take it? He said, yes. So on the spot, he was recruited. About 2 years later, he had been working with me. He came one morning. He said, sir, he likes to do petroleum engineering. He wants to go to the US. He's gotten admission. So he's looking for money everywhere. So I asked, by the way, how did you know this woman? He said, my father died, and my father and the prof, that's the woman's husband, were friends. So the prof took it upon himself to get other friends together. That was how my school fees were paid. And I said, this woman, she has not stopped doing good. Years later, she was still looking for people to help, other people's children that she could bless. So I said to him, apply for a loan. Of course, we don't give those kind of loans in my company. It's a private company. Say, apply for a loan. So the guy applied for a loan. We gave him a loan. He went to the US. I said to him, when you graduate, you begin to pay us back. About 2 years ago, he graduated in petroleum engineering. And as God will have it, he got a job. So he called me. Said, sir, I've now finished, and I have a job. What are the payment plans? I said, which payment plan? When I gave you that loan, that day I knew the loan was a write-off. But I wanted you to do well in school. That was why I said it was a loan. Now that you have finished, I'm happy for you. The only request I have is that the way the woman helped me, and I have helped you, somebody God will bring along your way. Help them also. There is a purpose for everything. Purpose for everything. You don't know why, when I came here, now you begin to understand why pastor is passionate about education in this church. When I came, I said, we must look for money and educate the children of those who could not afford to pay the fees of their children. That was 6 years ago. I'm happy now that some of those people now are now becoming graduates. I saw Josephine, was it last week? I called her. She had just come back from my NYC. There are more of them who are coming out. You don't know. One of them might be 15 years from today. The church wants to do a new building. We sponsor the whole of the building. You don't know. You don't know. It's an investment. Just sow it and move on. Just sow it and move on. Some of you have brilliant house helps. Say, come, John comes. Yes, ma. So you go to the market. You buy plantain, 100 naira. You buy A4, 20 naira. You calculate the thing, about 25 items. So yeah, John, go and calculate it. Say, madam, don't worry, ma. Everything is 50 naira, ma. How do you know, John? Say, as you were saying it, I was calculating it. John is a houseboy, but he's brilliant. That kind of boy should be in school. So why don't you find a way to send John to school? The John that you are looking down today, if you train John, you don't know what John is going to do for your family in future. It doesn't matter where John comes from. It doesn't matter where John comes from. I have a friend. His father was the driver for another friend of ours. And the father said, you have children. These people are brilliant. He trained those children. I think about 3 or 2 of those children had first class. First class. Driver's children. First class. Number 4. It is folly for princes to work and for servants to ride on horses. It is folly for princes to work and for servants to ride on horses. David said, Ziba, going forward, you are going to be able to ensure that this Mephibosheth and his son feed well. By the way, Mephibosheth only has one son, 5-year-old. The servant, Ziba, had 15 sons and 20 servants. So by the time David was saying, you have to be working for this guy so he can have food, that tells me that poverty was already knocking on the door of Mephibosheth. Meanwhile, somebody who was not even a member of the family was sitting on their wealth. It's folly when servants ride on horses and princes work. It is not the way God has done things. I am praying for you. If in your family the servants are riding on horses, this morning God will cause them to come down in the mighty name of Jesus. Whatever belongs to you and your generation that people have stolen from you, the Lord will restore it in the mighty name of Jesus. You know, servants don't know where they belong. I will tell you a local folk story from Yoruba. There was a story of a rich man. He had a lot of money. But one son, who should be the heir parent, who was rascally. So when the man died, he wrote a will. He said, to this my son, he should pick just one thing out of all that I have. And the rest of all that I have should go to my most trusted servant. So when the man died, the boy began to cry. He said, my father, actually, I know that the man, he hates me. He couldn't even give me some of it. He said, just one thing I should take. And servant should take everything. Somebody now advised him. Say, go and meet the wise man in the village. There must be a reason why your father did this. So he went to meet the wise man in the village to ask him what he should do. And the man told him what to do. So on the appointed day, the whole village was gathered. They want to know what he will pick. The servant had been having parties. Say if he wants, he can take the house in London. If he wants, he can take the one in America. Whatever is left is all mine. So when it was time, say, oh yeah, you are the first to choose. Your father said, pick anything, and then the rest belongs to the slave. He just went and picked the slave. Say, I want this slave. The man that owns the slave owns everything. The slave began to cry. He was a slave. No matter how many years you are spending in the family, he was still a slave. The father knew, for my boy to possess this, he needs wisdom. If he doesn't go and get wisdom, there's no point leaving this thing behind for him. Number 5. Do you remember favors? Do you remember favors? David remembered favor. Your old teacher, somebody who has helped you, somebody who has blessed you, just like David remembered one day. I couldn't have become king if not for Jonathan. Is there anything I can do? Some of you, your old teachers, some of you were written off when you were age 7, and a teacher, without charging your parents anything, took your matter in his or her own hands. She spent 2-3 hours after school every day ensuring that you passed English. Now you are a big man. Even a little note to Mrs. Henshaw or Mr. Okoli, or Mr. Lualogbon. It will be very helpful. Dear sir, I just thought of you today. I remember the years and the time you spent with me after school. Or the advice you gave me that has made me who I am today. Some of them don't want money from you. If they get a nice note from you, they will put it on their mirror. Every morning they are looking at it, and they are having satisfaction that money cannot give them. That I have changed somebody's life for good. Some of us, it's our husbands. Just thank your husband. The man who has been getting up 5 o'clock every day, 4 o'clock every day, to ensure that there is food on the table. Write him a nice letter, a nice note. My darling husband, we have been watching you over these years, how you get up very early, just to ensure that all of us are fed and we are clothed. You work very hard. We know that you have problems in the office, but because of us, you are taking all of it because of us. We just want to tell you, Daddy, we love you. Sign wife and children. Or husband to the wife, to thank her for all that she has been doing. It's not the trinket. It's not the gold. It's the appreciation. Sometimes it's worth more than the trinkets and the gold. Darling, I just want to say thank you. I just want to say thank you. Our God too, that is what he wants. Just praise. You can't pay him. It's the money that you have. The silver is his and the gold is his. All he's asking for, a heart of thanksgiving. I will enter his gates with praise and thanksgiving. That's all he's asking for. He's not asking for too much. Because he himself is very appreciative. He said in Mark chapter 10 verse 42, he said, even a cup of cold water, he will reward it. Cup of cold water. That's how thankful God is. He will reward it. Finally, you can invest in your future, or you can invest in eternity. It's nice to do all of these things, to sow into somebody's life, for this life. But are you sowing into eternity? Are you running your race such that it goes beyond here? Because no matter how many years you spend there, even if God blesses you with long life, 120 years you are gone. But there is something that goes beyond here. All eyes closed this morning.